UI.
Welcome to QI, where tonight our topic is journeys. And let's see who's in the arrivals hall today. All the way up from down under, it's Cal Wilson. Hello. The only way here is from Essex, Phill Jupitus. And from Port Talbot Parkway, stopping at Pyle, Bridgend, Pencoed, Llanharan, Pontydwn, Ninian Park and Cardiff Central, Rob Brydon. And bearing the label Not Wanted on Voyage, Alan Davis. And they all have little buzzer noises, and Cal goes. And Rob goes. Phil goes. Which you do, in fact, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. And Alan goes. That's your chosen mode of transport. Well, we've travelled a lot, Alan, and one of the places we travelled to a few months ago was Australia, and that's where we found Cal, who is New Zealand's perhaps greatest stand-up comedian and works mostly in Melbourne now, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I've got the Antipodes covered.
Yeah. But we liked you so much, we smuggled you in our luggage and we brought you back here. So welcome.
Thank you. And I make a better souvenir than an interesting key ring, I suppose.
Exactly, exactly.
I did want a koala, but...
A stuffed koala.
Not on, apparently.
No. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single question. Where the hell did I leave my passport?
I lost mine in a plane once, and it had gone down under the cushion of my seat.
Oh. Yeah.
The actual plane seat.
Yeah.
I was on the plane for 8. I refused to get off the plane.
Yeah. You have to get your seat disassembled. I've had that.
And eventually I found it. That's the end of the story.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. That is a lovely, lovely story.
Stephen, is that Alan Davis, or is it... Hang on, is it Peter Ustinov? That was a hell of an anecdote. If that is the level of the bar this evening, I may go home.
Is it you, specifically you? Where did you leave your passport?
Well, no, it's this technique. The University of Wisconsin, when you lose something, it actually helps to say the name of the thing that you have lost or you're looking for.
Dignity.
Yes, for example. Exactly.
For me, that would make it worse. That would just draw attention to it. Your wallet has a name.
Well, no, just...
Peregrine! Peregrine! Bah! Peregrine!
That's how... It might work.
It has now.
Yes. From now on, it would be called Peregrine. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, for example, you open a cutlery drawer, and where the hell's the garlic peeler or whatever? If you just say garlic peeler...
The garlic peeler
or whatever, it might be...
Andrew! Andrew!
You're missing my point about names here. I just mean the word we give the thing. Its normal description as found in a dictionary, not from a list of given names. So it isn't Julian the cheese grater. It isn't Barbara the corkscrew, yes?
It would put a different complexion on Marlon Brando yelling, Stella! When we just a pair of glasses that he was
Stella
after.
he
lost his wallet.
His sunglasses
There we know.
called Stella, exactly.
So what did you do? You have to say wallet.
Well, if
Keys.
Yeah, exactly. So you say sort of, you know, bottle opener. You've got more chance of seeing it. You're looking at the thing.
Money.
You know
Gold.
You know that phrase, it was just staring me in the face and you somehow couldn't see it. The act of speaking does something in your brain that actually allows your eyes to see it more clearly. That seems to be demonstrated.
Reminds me of that phrase, Stephen. Couldn't see the wood for the trees. Have you ever come across that phrase before?
I have. I never used to understand
what it basically means is
Dude.
you're looking at... Wait.
Yeah.
You're looking for wood.
Yes, yeah.
Not the way you might.
Not in that
sense. You're looking for wood.
Yeah.
And you're looking at trees.
Yes.
So you are, in essence, looking at wood.
They're wood, aren't they?
But you're... I've got it, Alan. But you're seeing trees, so you can't see the wood for the trees. And I think, in a funny old way, it's a little bit like what you're talking about, isn't it?
Almost exactly not.
Yeah.
But no, it's nice. It's nice you brought that up. It's a good...
Now, the other thing, before I finish, the other thing I'd like to bring up is this whole business now with passports. They don't like you to smile in the photograph.
Oh, no.
When I grew up, a smile was almost mandatory.
Grin.
Like if you're...
Yep.
But now you have to look like you're suspected of having done something.
I look like a Russian prison guard in my passport photo.
I can see that.
Enormous...
I can see that. Absolutely. A hatchet-faced Silesian fishman. Yeah.
Every single photo of me booth I get into appears to be set on paedophile.
Try and recreate that look for us now, could you?
No, right, for a kick-off, what you have to do in a photo of me booth is they don't let you wear glasses either. And also, because the camera lens is behind the mirror and you don't know where it really is, you're always looking slightly off...
oh, that's true.
So, is it down... So, OK, this is the look.
Stay away from my children! It gets you out of a lot of babysitting duties, though, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
But our passports would probably look quite good together, because you're the paedophile and I'm the prison guard.
Wow.
Yeah, we should travel together.
Yes.
I'm with my Kiwi handler. Do Kiwis have handlers?
They're not very good for eating.
Are they edible?
We're not allowed to eat them.
Like swans. I mean, the Queen's allowed them. Is the Queen allowed kiwis?
I don't think she is.
I mean, could she just eat anything she wants because she's the Queen?
I wouldn't be the one to tell her not to. But
I imagine not.
No. Stop eating that kiwi, you dreadful old woman.
I imagine that you'd be a bit more polite. You are Stephen Fry off the telly.
You don't have to do the dreadful...
No, you know, I could just... No, but it would be a dreadful thing to do.
You'd say, stop eating that kiwi, ma'am, and jam.
Exactly.
Your Majesty, put the puffin down. Let's just have a load of situations where we're telling the Queen to stop eating things. That sounds like a children's game. We now have a round of Your Majesty, put the puffin down. Right. You're the Queen, so 1, 2, 3. Your Majesty, put the puffin down. Yes, very good. Anyway, I don't know why or how we got there, but that's what journeys do to you. Anyway, describe the travel arrangements of the Japanese flying snail. Where is it going?
It probably won't travel more than 11 miles, but very fast.
Does it drop?
Yes,
Is it a fall?
Yeah, but how would it get up?
They haven't got wings, have they, you see?
No, they haven't. They so haven't got wings. But we haven't got wings and we fly. How do we do it?
No, in an aeroplane.
We get in an aeroplane. We get in some...
Oh, I got the answer
We get
to
in a
this.
conveyance that flies.
They hop on a bird or a creature with wings.
Yes.
A bird.
Yeah.
They hop...
Could have been a bat.
Could have been a bat.
Yeah.
Could have been a bat or a bird.
Yeah,
Or a strange hybrid of bird bat. They hop onto a creature with the ability to fly.
But 11 miles, that's very, very high.
It's not the height, it's not the altitude, never mind. They travel...
I've still got it in my head that they're dropping 11 miles.
No. It's not a voluntary act. They get eaten by birds. There are two types of birds. On the little island of Hahajima. Hahajima, it's one of the Agasawara Islands, south of Japan, as you can see. And there is the Japanese white-eye and the brown-eyed bulbul, which are two types of bird. There they are.
Yeah.
And they eat this particular snail. Yeah. And about 15% of them survive the process and are excreted out alive. And so they're kind of spreading their genes further around, yeah.
Because that seems unlikely.
No, it's not. That would be a seriously weighed down...
That snail could eat that bird. I'd back the snail.
Is the bird on the left Is that a white ring round its eye, or is it just excreted a full-size snail?
Whoa! Whoa! It can be up to between 30 minutes or 2 hours later that it passes through the bird system, as it were, and the bird can fly at about 11 miles per hour.
So is the snail doing some of the work to pass through that quickly? Like, is it trundling towards the exit of the bird as well?
It's the normal peristaltic action of the digestive system of the bird is pushing it through its crop, through down into its tummy and then out of its little bitty body.
Does the snail go into his own shell, by which I don't mean get a little self-conscious? does he retreat into his shell to take shelter?
I should imagine he would.
Well, don't they pick them out of the shell anyway? Don't they get in the...
Like you do in a restaurant with a special fork.
They've got a special fork.
Which is called armour.
They've got a special fork.
I'm writing down an ice cream scoop called Vanessa.
Yes. So anyway...
What would you call one of those pizza cutters, the roly pizza cutter?
Clement.
Clement. Fair enough. No, fair enough.
Dave.
Well, there you are. Yes, good. So the cry goes up, abandoned ship now. That's our next question. Abandoned ship. Now, we're proud Britons and one proud Kiwi. What do we say next? What do we chaps say?
No, women and children first.
Well, yeah. So far as we know, that's only ever been cried twice. It's called the Birkenhead drill, and it happened on board a ship called the Birkenhead, but that was because the captain pointed a gun at his crew and said, women and children first. This has not been an idea that had especially existed before, and in fact, it's very un-British. Women have a lesser chance of surviving if a British ship sinks than a continental one.
That's good to know.
Yep. Yeah. So we aren't the gallant creatures that we thought we were, at all. The Titanic was the other one in which the men were told to stand back. And there was, we've had this on QI before, there was one crew member who survived, went all the way home to Liverpool, and he had the door slammed in his face by his mother, who was ashamed of him for having survived. But in fact, more...
Sounds nice.
Yeah, charming, isn't it? Really extraordinary. Well, I mean, unbelievable. But obviously, you want a fair number of fit, strong people who know their way around the waters, as it were, once you're in the lifeboat. Because if it's all women and children, there's not really going to be that much necessarily use in being in the lifeboat. You need at least one crew member who can navigate by the stars or who can operate the oars efficiently.
Or isn't going, oh, look, there's a fish over there, let's go over there.
Yes, exactly. I wasn't going to be the one to say that. I'm glad you did. But anyway, known as the Birkenhead drill, it's not common.
Has anybody here ever had to muster? Have you ever mustered, Stephen?
Not on a ship.
Well, I was on a ship. I was filming something on a cruise ship, and it hit a rock, and we had to genuinely muster. And the important thing in that situation is to stay calm. I absolutely cacked myself. I was terrified.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, hard to believe.
No.
I was. It's very frightening. We were filming a scene with James Corden. It was a thing called Cruise of the Gods. We blacked out the windows of this cabin to simulate night. All of a sudden, the boat tipped at an incredible angle one way.
James Corden gone over to the...
Hey! Naughty!
That's very naughty, Alan. That's very naughty. You know, a lot of people in Britain struggle with their weight, Alan.
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of you.
Were you with him?
And we ended up having to abandon ship that night, just like similar to Titanic. Yeah. We're all being led. I don't want to say just like.
I don't know.
It wasn't that bad.
It's a good enough story without having to embellish it that much.
All right, yeah. But we get off and we're going away watching the ship lit up in the background.
Where was the nearest land?
We were close to land because we were coming out of a port. The captain was coming out of port too fast. And sure enough, we went... So we were quite close, but a very frightening experience.
I mean, I don't... You know, with all due deference to the captain of this vessel going too fast out of port, I mean, if he doesn't do that, his kids can't water ski.
Fair point. You've got to give him a treat.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point of being a captain if you can't have a laugh with it?
Anyway, there you are, yes. Who used to hang out with Richard Burton and drive cabbies around the bend? Yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, very good!
That is... No.
Who is that? Go on.
It's not O.J. Simpson.
It is O.J. Simpson, very good. With Burton, of course. So, now, we're confusing you because this is a bit naughty of us. I say this enemy of cabs was a real enemy of cabs. And oddly enough, by mentioning Elizabeth Taylor, for which... chapeau, as they say in French. You've got the right gender, because the person who annoyed this cabbie was, in fact, a woman. And that's the Richard Burton we're talking about. And who is that Richard Burton?
Was he an explorer? He was an English explorer?
He was an amazing man.
And he went off for years and years at a time and would occasionally write letters to his wife. It seems to be no tweeting or Skyping or
There was
anything.
no tweeting, absolutely. He spoke 29 languages. He was a quite remarkable man. And he gave the English-speaking world the unexpurgated translation of the 1001 Nights and, indeed, the Kama Sutra. So he was considered by Victorians as absolutely outrageous and scandalous, but he was an extraordinary scholar, adventurer, a remarkable man, truly remarkable man. But he had a friend called Mrs. Prodgers, who I assume must have been, that sounds like a Welsh surname, presumably Prodgers. Is it Prodgers? Is it a name you've come across before?
No,
It's a new one on me, I have to say.
I've never heard Prodgers.
Nice name, Mrs. Prodgers.
Mrs. Prodgers came in yesterday. Oh. What did she want? Well, she wouldn't say. She was looking for you.
You've built up a whole little scenario.
She looked upset, though.
No,
I hear her Bronwyn is taking her exams this week. Yes, she is. Mind you, that glandular fever has played hell with her revision.
Yeah, and we're looking next week for episode 2 of Life with the Prodgers. Now, this woman, whose name was Prodgers, had conducted a lifelong, insane, very typically Victorianly eccentric battle against cabbies, for whom, for some reason, she really had it in for them. Seems they ply a harmless trade. In those days, of course, using horses rather than engines. And she knew, to within feet, the exact limits of the journeys they could make for 1 shilling. And she would make them make the journey within a few yards of the boundary, which would then allow them to charge more. And then she would wait precisely the amount of time she was allowed to wait without them charging extra waiting time. And then she gloried more than anything else in them trying to get more money off her, and then she would take them to court, and she would usually win. It was just bizarre practice. Wow. But it got to the stage, she also travelled in sort of some style, so when she arrived at King's Cross Station, she would have 5 porters, 3 for her luggage and 2 to carry her children. And there'd be the line of cabs outside, just as there is today in any major station, and there would be a shout of, "Mrs. Prodgers, Mrs. Prodgers," and they'd all bugger off. They'd all disappear. And there was, in 1876, on Bonfire Night, made an effigy of her, the cabbies, and burned her in a huge bonfire. And there were musical songs about it. It was a very famous, sort of bizarre thing that this woman had it in for cabbies. Who knows, one of them may have tried to molest her, or failed to molest her, or whatever.
When you realise that she's in your cab.
God, I know. Oh, that was just bloody Prodgers.
And she jumps in and goes, "Oh, shit, Mrs. Prodgers."
Yeah, I've got Mrs. Prodgers. Very extraordinary. Anyway, but for some reason, she was very friendly with Richard Burton, and he helped her and gave her advice. And considering he was, as you rightly say, not considered a particularly gallant man, as far as his wife was concerned, he was away a lot. He was always very helpful and kind to her, and the rest of the family never understood it because he was usually rather short-tempered with them. They couldn't understand it. It's a standing joke that his regard for Mrs. Prodgers...
She wasn't his alter ego. Wasn't like his...
No, I don't think
he dressed up as Mrs. Prodgers.
Interesting. Were they ever seen together in the same room?
Because he goes off exploring thousands and thousands of miles, but as Mrs. Prodgers, he only goes about 20 centimetres at a time.
Interesting thought, isn't it?
I got into a taxi once in London, and the taxi driver saw me in the mirror, and he went, "Oh, hello, mate. Yeah, can I say, we do enjoy, the wife and I, watching you." And I thought, oh, this is going to be lovely. And he started telling me what he liked, but he was mistaking me for Ben Miller.
Yeah, I love him to do that. Yeah. I know.
And he started listing lots of Ben's animal projects.
I like that. Primeval.
Yeah, and he said, "That worst week of my life." I mean, so I just played along. I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And then he actually said, "I'll tell you what, you must get confused for. Is that Welsh one? Is that
awful, man?"
And I said, "Oh, Rob Brydon." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, he's good." I said, "I think he's fantastic." And he said, "What, him, the Welsh one?" "I think he's a twat."
So, there we are. That was Richard Burton. How long would it take you to bicycle from Land's End to the northernmost part of Britain?
What, John O'Groats, you mean?
Oh! That's very mean of me, wasn't it?
Don't know. Ask clear, well-defined questions.
We just like to make you say
You can't buzz me on chit-chat.
No, that's the point, really. It's not the northernmost part of Britain.
Is it not?
No, surprisingly. It sort of advertises itself as such, and it has a little hut. That's the last house in Scotland in John O'Groats.
Oh, there's one of those boys in calipers with a slot in his box. I haven't seen one of those for
a long
years.
time ago. I know.
There's always one of those on the high street when I was a kid.
Well, it used to be called the Spastic Society. It's now Scope, I think, isn't it?
You put a penny in and he was still there the next week.
Did you put the penny in to make him go away?
So I thought it would get him better. Poor lad.
Oh, bless.
You look at him there, he's obviously on his holidays there.
I used to like those ones where you put the penny in and it just rolled round and round and round and round and round.
We had a guide dog, he put the penny in his
around?
head. We had a lifeboat one, when he put the penny in and the
That's right.
lifeboat came out.
Yeah, I like
always
that.
putting pennies in things.
There's a brilliant model of Queen Victoria's dog in Sydney outside the Queen Victoria building, and it's like a, you know, you put a donation, but it talks. So it's a little, like, Highland Terrier, and it says in very beautiful newsreader tones, "During my lifetime, because of my good deeds, after my death, I was granted the power of speech." Like this, and then it goes, "If you put a coin in the box, I will say thank you." And then it pauses, and then it goes, "Thank you." Woof.
That lad said nothing to me.
Not a word.
Every week I put something in his box.
Which do you put it in the box, or is it his head?
He put it in
or
his,
is it...
It's got a slot in his box. He might have 2 slots. Some of them would have 2 slots.
2 slots in their box, yeah. Women have... No, stop. I never said that. It's,
I resign.
Yeah, it's quite absolutely
We've established
shameful.
this is not your area.
He looks...
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're talking about Narnia or something. It's a fantastical land you've only heard about.
Exactly.
You make your way through the fur coats and suddenly...
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Wielding a coin. A
Then
single
for a while
coin.
you have a magical time, but then you meet an ice maiden.
Oh, dear God. Anyway, yes.
You're telling me there's somewhere further than John
There is
O'Groats?
indeed. Dunnet Head. That's the actual northernmost spot. So if you've got all the way to John O'Groats and you haven't gone there, you just
The cycle on there, though, would you?
No,
It's a bit
that's
bumpy and-
rather beautiful, isn't it? It's about 603 miles as the crow flies, but by road it's about 800 miles. Cyclists could take 10 to 14 days doing it. The record for running the route, what would you say is? Have a guess.
You couldn't do it in less than a week, could you?
No, no. It's 9 days and 2 hours, which is pretty damn good going. Pretty damn good going,
I'll
frankly. In 2005, a golfer named David Sullivan hit a golf ball all the way. It took him 7 weeks. I don't know what his score was. He often, if he didn't fill in his card correctly at the end, disqualified.
Was it a putter?
Did he mean to do it? Did he mean to do it, or was he just trying to get it in the
He was
hole?
just
Anyway?
playing it where it lies. And it would,
again.
it would land in the back of a lorry going the other direction.
I feel sorry for the bloke that was standing waiting for him holding the flag.
So people have done it all kinds of different ways. In 1911, there was a motorcycle record of 29 hours and 12 minutes, which led to a ban on further attempts because the time necessarily proved that they'd been breaking the speed limit, which was 20 miles per hour. Now, here's a bird you might see near John O'Groats. What is it?
Well...
Gannet.
Full.
Not a gannet, it's not
Is it,
a falcon.
is it the one puffin the Queen hasn't eaten?
It is a puffin. Well done.
It's a puffin.
It's a puffin. Yes, we usually think of puffins as looking
Where's
more
its
like
beak?
this,
It's
don't we?
bill.
There, that's what, exactly. Well,
Photoshop,
when they've had
Photoshop.
sex
It's a
and it's
ninja
winter,
puffin.
once they've had sex and it's winter, they don't need to look all bright like that, and so they go all dull.
Its beak is... Well, I
And
suppose
the beak actually
is
falls
shrunken
off.
after
It falls
sex.
off. Yeah.
Falls off?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. I know. It's just there to attract a mate, and then once
The dirty, dirty puffin.
Is it the equivalent of a woman losing her figure after she's got married?
I suppose.
The minute the ring goes on, they just go to pieces.
Oh, no,
To
behave.
me, it looks more like the equivalent of a woman taking her padded bra off. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yes, there, I'm afraid.
She's
there
just
is.
not making an effort anymore, is she?
The eye there, has that just been stuck on the other eye? Is that
Yeah, again, it's a colour there. It's all
just
to
blind? I look great.
all to look bright and sexy.
Oh, hello, it's worked.
They rather sweetly pair for life, male and female puffins, and they make together 1 egg a year. So once they've mated, they don't need to attract each other anymore. So they, you know, for the winter season, when there's, you know, they're busy feeding, and they just, and then they sort of put
I
on,
remember
put on
when
their
you
spring
cared about
makeup.
me.
Exactly. But then
You
they
used to have a pink beak. You used to
then
put
it
the eye
comes back.
makeup on.
It comes back again.
Comes back?
Yeah, so but they're lovely, lovely little creatures, aren't they? Do you know what a baby puffin is called?
A puff.
It's a puffling. Isn't that lovely? So, exactly.
That's like something out of Harry Potter.
They love that.
It sounds like...
Say it again, they loved it.
Puffling.
How many people now have a new nickname for their partner?
Exactly, puffling.
Their partner, did you say?
It sounds
Said
something like something made
I was
out...
going to say their penis.
For some people, that is their partner.
My puffling.
Are they like those party hats you can get with a bit of elastic? The one on the left, he looks like it could easily...
Honestly, a toucan could do great on that puffin island, you imagine.
He'd score big time.
Oh, Nelly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, ladies.
Well, they spend their time...
From the tropics. This doesn't fall off after. No, I'm keeping this. Yeah, I've still got the Guinness money.
They are...
Yeah, he'd be freezing cold, though, wouldn't he, after a while? Oh, you do this.
It's true.
Would his beak get smaller in the winter?
These are very...
Are these just Arctic toucans?
Well, no, they're not, actually. They're a kind of auk, in fact. Most of those you'll find in the North Atlantic, and these, indeed, John O'Groats would be a very good place to see them.
Not Auckland.
But not Auckland, oddly enough. That's spelled with a C, a little redundant C, A-U-C-K.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. But out to sea, they're pelagic, and they have little backward, sort of like barbed rows of things to basically to store fish in their mouth. But they're lovely, lovely creatures. Of course, the Catholic Church counted them as fish, so you could eat them on Fridays. Good. So, anyway, for evolutionary reasons, puffins' beaks fall off after sex, assuming you believe in evolution, that is, like that... what was the name of the naturalist on board the Beagle?
Charles Darwin, you mean?
Oh.
Oh, right!
This is a whole new tactic he's doing.
He wasn't the naturalist on board the Beagle. Oddly enough, there was an official naturalist on board the Beagle, and it wasn't Charles Darwin. He was the...
I don't care anymore!
Oh, you're angry. I'm sorry. Philip, I wish it hadn't happened to you.
cook.
He wasn't the cook, no.
He was the figurehead on the prow.
He wasn't that either. He was, in fact, the geologist.
The geologist.
He took 4 times more notes on geology than he did on zoology, oddly enough. It was the doctor, whose name was McCormack, who was the official naturalist, and he really resented Darwin being there. It was rather snobbish British 19th century reasons, is that Fitzroy, whose voyage it was, wanted a gentleman companion, and Charles Darwin fitted the bill rather more than the doctor.
Was there an advert in the Telegraph? Wanted, puffling.
Accompanied, yes, on long voyage. The doctor resented Darwin because Darwin took his place at the captain's table and everything was treated as an equal of the captain because Fitzroy was an independently rich gentleman, as they would call him then. And Darwin writes in his diary, in fact, my friend the doctor is an ass. But we jog along very amicably. At present he's in great tribulation whether his cabin should be painted French grey or dead white. I hear little accepting this subject from him. So he was obviously a man who goes, how shall I paint my cabin? That's all he ever talked about. So, but on Christmas Day in 1835, there's the young Darwin before he grew that massive beard, they went to Tierra del Fuego, the land of the fire, right down below South America. And there, Darwin was very astonished to note what happened when the local people had a famine, what they turned to eat. Can you imagine what it is that they ate when times were difficult?
Guinea pigs.
No, guinea pigs are eaten generally around South America quite commonly. That's
one another?
One another is right, but a particular type of person was chosen.
Elderly people.
And a particular type of...
Elderly women?
Elderly women is the answer. The elderly women ran for the hills when there was any kind of famine on because they were the ones...
That's some good old lady. I'm not the Gilf cookbook.
Terrible. That's just awful, Philip Jupitus. But the reason being that...
Their arms are so tender.
Well, they explained to the crew of the Beagle that the reason was, I'm afraid to say, that the old women were the least useful members of the tribe. Because old men and children and others could otter hunt, but the old women couldn't hunt for otters.
What about the knitting?
Sorry?
What about the knitting and the crochet?
Well, exactly, I know, exactly.
And who's going to teach you rummy?
That's a very good point. Yes.
You can make dumplings. All these things that only old ladies can do.
How does their society evolve with nobody to say, oh, I know. Oh, I know.
The thing is, they'd still be able to make. They'd be able to make dumplings.
Hello. Completely devoid of that.
I know. They could make dumplings out of them.
Yes,
That's
exactly,
true. That's
exactly.
very, 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 very good point. Anyway, there we are. So that's one of the exciting things that Charles Darwin, who was not the naturalist on board the Beagle, discovered. So we travelled to a more exotic place where they had jackal-headed gods. Where would I be?
Egypt.
Nabbit. You didn't quite say that,
Sorry,
did
you
you?
phrased that correctly. What? Egypt, you mean?
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you, exactly. Not Egypt, in fact. Those have been known as jackal-headed god. That particular god, extra points if you know that.
Anubis.
Well done. Anubis is the right answer. Anubis, who was... Do you know what the duty of Anubis was?
Something to do with death, didn't he?
Yes.
Guide you into the
He conducted you into the...
Yes.
Brilliant. Another 5 points. I think there's a rather wonderful technical name for a god that guides you into the underworld, like Mercury, who guided you as far as the river Styx, and that's a psychopomp. Is that a good word?
Psychopomp?
A psychopomp.
Sounds like something you'd find in a medical examination, doesn't
Yes,
it? I'm
yes.
sorry, Mrs. Wilson, you've got psychopomps.
It may be benign. They may be
gonna have to
malignant.
operate.
A malignant psychopomp you wouldn't want. But in fact, what has been discovered, and this is you won't find this on Egyptological websites where they'll continue to call Anubis and other Egyptian deities jackal-headed, but the animals that existed at the time of ancient Egypt were, we now know from DNA, wolves, not jackals. So it seems from a zoological point of view, if not from an Egyptological point of view, they are in fact wolf-headed, not jackal-headed. You heard it here first. Very recent discovery. So that's exciting, isn't it? But now we come to a very special part of the programme here. In this series, we're occasionally featuring theories which are interesting, but which we don't necessarily believe, 100% at least. We call them dubious theories.
A dubious theory from Stephen Fry.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, the years between 614 and 911 AD didn't exist. The Holy Roman Emperor Otto III got his chroniclers to fake nearly 300 years of history. So there was no such person as Charlemagne, and we're currently actually living in the year 1715 AD. This is called the phantom time hypothesis. Is it dubious? Look it up on phantomschmantom.com and decide for yourself.
That's like the earliest version of Wikipedia then, isn't it? Like someone's just gone in and changed the pages to make it...
The theory is that this emperor wanted to be on the throne in the year 1000 AD. But in fact, it was only 700 AD. So he basically got the chroniclers to pretend that this 300 years existed. There was one Herbert Illich who started this argument in 1990. And his evidence is the apparent stagnation in the development of architecture, ceramics, and thought at this time. It is, after all, the beginning of the age that is known as the Dark Ages. And there's very little archaeological evidence which can be reliably dated to this period. There's a very limited number of written sources which could be faked or just wrong. I know it's just mad, but anyway, there are a range of achievements that are given to Charlemagne that make you think that he must have been a mythical creature rather than a real one. His size, his warrior, his scholarship, his inventions, his brilliance, and so on. Anyway, it's worth looking up, and you can decide for yourself whether or not it is true. But it's an amazing thought that it could be the year 1715. In which case,
I'm all for it.
we're going to have a Jacobite rebellion any minute. Yeah, there you go. So, there we are. So, as I say, look it up in phantomschmantom.com. So, now, name 2 interesting things you can do with a coconut in Hawaii.
They've got different coconuts in Hawaii from other places?
It's a very touristy thing that is frowned upon by the officials who do nonetheless do it. It's thousands of these are done every year, so...
It's some kind of like, you know, you throw them from a moving vehicle.
You use it as a postcard.
Postcard?
Yeah. And you can see, there they are.
Yes.
You buy them like that, and they will help you decorate it. And you can see the writing on one of them there, just nuts about, see you sometime. You put a stamp on, $10 it costs, something like that, to send it to the mainland of America.
That'd be annoying to get one of those.
It really would, wouldn't it? I know, it's not...
Where's the coconut I sent you? Where is it then?
Yeah. Oh, well, there was a fire.
Yeah.
There was a fire that I threw it into.
A bit of rationality, and I threw it in a bin.
I had a friend who was nearly killed by a coconut, and I've known him for 20 years, and I was furious with him because he only told me a couple of months ago. And if I had nearly been killed by a coconut, I would be shoehorning it into every conversation. Hello, I'm callow-side coconut. I was incensed with him, but he said he's just standing on a beach and a coconut fell from the tree, and he said it was such a good shot, hit him directly on the head. He said it was such a good shot, he could hear other coconuts high-fiving each other.
Other things you could do with a coconut, not necessarily in Hawaii.
Get coconut milk out.
Well, yes, the water, the milk, you could use it as a rehydration drip, which they did during World War II, both the Japanese and the Americans, because it's sterile, but it's perfectly serviceable for rehydration to use it as a drip. You have a little coconut dripping into you. The other thing to do, if you have a tooth knocked out, immersion in coconut water will keep the tooth viable for reinsertion, better than milk. So there you are, little things you can do with coconuts. Now, why did JFK keep a coconut on his desk? And there he did. You can see he did. No question about it.
Was he missing a tooth?
No, that wasn't the reason.
Is it a recording device of some sort?
No, it isn't.
A CIA nut?
No, it isn't.
Postcard from a friend?
It's a memento. It is not a postcard from a friend. It's a very rather important memento. Amongst JFK's achievements, obviously, he was youngish and...
Oh, he was on the torpedo boat during the war.
He was on a torpedo boat, BT-109.
Yeah,
famously,
was it from
he was rather
then?
heroic. Yes. His torpedo boat was sunk by the enemy, and he found himself stranded on the Solomon Islands, completely isolated. And there were local islanders, and he had no pen or paper, so he carved onto a coconut, which he gave to some of the local native islanders, and asked them to take it to the capital, Rendover, and he carved on it, Noro Island, commander, native knows position, he can pilot, 11 alive, needs small boat, Kennedy. And the natives took it, and eventually he was rescued.
Hurry up and pick us up. They are eating the old women here.
So it was a postcard?
It was indeed. You're kind of right.
off.
He started the whole fashion. And, of course, they gave it back to him as a memento, and he kept it on his desk.
Wow.
Didn't bring him much luck, but...
Bit dark. Bit dark.
Sorry. That's awful. There we go. I can remember it. You're all too old. I mean, hang on. I think I may actually be getting dementia.
I really remember it.
Yes, I can.
I was standing on a grassy knoll with a rifle.
And a voice told me. Yeah. I was 6 years old, I think, something like that.
I can remember Ronald Reagan being shot, and my dad was in the kitchen, and I said, Reagan's been shot. And he went, huh? That's a bit blasé. And he thought I meant Regan in the Sweeney.
No! In 1981, they had a premiere of a British movie, Chariots of Fire. And they asked our little comedy troupe, with me and Hugh and Emma and Tony Slattery, if we would perform at a little cabaret at the Dorchester Hotel after the premiere. And I'd spoken to my mother, and I'd said to her, I'm very excited, we're going to go to the Dorchester. She said, God, I'm in the Dorchester. I said, do you know the last time I went to the Dorchester? It all broke up very early because it was the night Kennedy got shot. It was in 1962. And I said, oh, gosh, blimey. Anyway, so I'm doing the sketch with Emma, and suddenly we noticed the audience is going... and everyone's disappeared, all these executives from Fox and everything. And Reagan had been shot. So I rang my mother up and said, what happened? She said, no member of this family is ever allowed to go to the Dorchester again. It's not safe for Western democracy.
Which is why during W. Bush's administration, Stephen dined in the Dorchester...
Anyway.
Waiter, any news?
Still not. Dear me. Still, which travel organisation includes a mandatory fee for the repatriation of your corpse?
The AA, Thomas Cook.
No, this is a very particular event that you can subscribe to, which and they sort out your travel and your participation in this event, but included in it is a fee for the repatriation of your corpse. It's not expected you'll die, but there's a chance.
It's not running the bulls at Pamplona, is it?
No, it's not the bulls at Pamplona.
I was going to say dining with you at the Dorchester.
No, dining with the Dorchester, exactly.
It's not one of these Iron Man races,
it's
is it?
that sort of a thing. It's an incredibly difficult marathon. It's called the Marathon des Sables, which your French will tell you means...
Marathon of the Sable.
These little black furry creatures in... Yes, sand is sable in French.
Oh, sable, sorry.
Sable, yes. It's the Marathon of the Sands, and it's an extraordinarily enduring and gruelling event in which you have to carry your own food, although there are water stops, and it's a 6-day... each day you run a whole marathon in the Sahara Desert.
Very weird, aren't they?
I know. If I have a friend who does it, she's done it twice. She's absolutely extraordinary.
Did she have to go back because she'd forgotten something?
No, two separate years.
Oh, they better not tell Izzard about it.
Yeah, I think...
Really? OK. How many do they do? OK. I'm going to do 120 desert marathons a week for a year. Yeah, true story.
Very good, Eddie, I have to say. Brilliant.
I'm going... I'm going to the pub every night for 27 years.
This
tribute to Nelson Mandela.
Consider the case of Mauro Prosperi, who was a very experienced runner, an Italian policeman, in fact, who in 1994 was doing the Marathon des Sables, and there was a sandstorm, and he disobeyed the official instructions, which are, if you're in a sandstorm, you hunker down and wait till it passes. I guess he wanted to win or something, so he carried on running, and he got lost. And this is a bad thing in the Sahara, as I'm sure you can imagine. By the second day, he was drinking his urine, naturally. On the third, he found an abandoned shrine, managed to kill a couple of bats whose blood he drank. He then decided to kill himself with a penknife, but he was so dehydrated that the blood wouldn't flow. He was rather surprised and encouraged to wake up the next morning, and so he ran for the next 5 days, drinking urine and dew and eating the occasional lizard that he found and managed to kill on the way. After 9 days, he encountered some nomads who got him back to safety. He'd lost 3 stone and was 130 miles off course in Algeria. I mean, and then he did it again for 6 years. He went back and did it again. Amazing. I mean, bizarre, but there you go. It's shish.
No one gives the nomads much credit in that.
No, I know, I can say.
Well, he was out there for 9 days.
Yeah.
Oh, my whole life.
Yeah, exactly. but
he walked for 6 days. Oh, get over yourself. Doing that when I was 3.
Drinking your own piss, luxury.
But his description of it is really a very good life, isn't it? He said, I didn't panic, I just despaired. There you are. Anyway, what did Napoleon say to Josephine on his way back from a journey?
Ah, I sense a trap. The only thing I know about Napoleon to Josephine was he said...
Yeah?
What was it, Rob? What was it?
Phill.
How?
I'm going to do it. I'm coming back, don't wash.
Oh! That is one of the 2 things that people know that Napoleon said. Yep, I shall be home soon, don't wash, because he liked them dirty. There is no evidence for that whatsoever. The earliest place this quotation can be sourced is 1981.
I only know the other one.
The other one, which might be... what?
It's the one... Rob, what's it?
Yeah, you know it.
Cal, what? It's really...
I'm still stuck on the no
Pas
washing.
ce soir, Josephine.
Oh.
And I got away with it.
Josephine, on the right there, she's got the same black eyes that all the people in my pictures have got on my computer when I try and get rid of the red eye.
Yes, that's true.
They end up with massive black dots and they look like some sort of zombie film.
Anyway, I'm sorry you fell into our trap, but you managed to avoid the trap of Not Tonight, Josephine, which is the other thing he was supposed to have said.
That's the one I know.
That appears in a play, W.G. Will's play called The Royal Divorce, which didn't come out until 1891, some 70 years after the death of the Emperor.
An army marches on its stomach.
Yes, well, indeed, yes.
Did he say that?
Unlikely to have said that to Josephine, but he might have done. I think he made it more as a sort of, you know, a point about logistics.
Maybe he discussed all sorts of battle stuff.
He might have done. He said, I prefer a lucky general to a skilled one, he said as well. So we don't really know anything particular that Josephine and Napoleon might have said to each other. But we do know one thing. Journey's End, in Lovers' Meeting. That's Shakespeare. And in 4th place... in 4th place, we have, I'm sorry to say, but he did fall into some of our honey traps rather cumbrously. Phill Jupitus with -16. And our little kiwi fruit is 3rd with -8. Cal Wilson. But hold the front page. 2nd with -3, Rob Brydon. With an astonishing +4, Alan Davies is the winner! Whoa! That's all from Rob, Phill, Cal, Alan and me. The last word on journeys comes from Emma Bornbeck. She said, seize the moment. Remember all those women on the Titanic who waved away the dessert cart. Have a safe trip. Good night.
More quizzing here on BBC HD all this week with Eggheads back on Monday at 6. But next this evening, stay with us for all new comedy with The Thick of It.